On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, decentralized exchange platform BitSquare have published an update on their development plans, their name change, and how they plan to fulfill the dreams of the cryptocurrency founding fathers. Dash is the privacy-focused digital currency that offers transactions with instant confirmations. Its unique decentralized decision-making and self-funding system make it an ideal choice as a stable and secure digital cash. Click the link in the video description to learn more. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. I'm your host, Chris Coney. Now today is the 31st of March 2017, so let's get right into the market roundup. So we turn to coinmarketcap.com for the cryptocurrency prices. Now Ripple is the biggest winner today, up 88.2%. But ever since I got tipped off about Ripple regularly adjusting the supply of coins, I don't really take any big price movements seriously anymore. In any case, what I see here is that Ripple has knocked Dash off of the number 3 spot with a total market cap of 753 million. That's Ripple's market cap, by the way. And a Ripple token is now worth 2 cents each. Now that sits in stark contrast to Dash, which has shaved 8.6% today, putting it under $80. A Dash coin is now worth $75.67. I'm glad I took the opportunity to buy some new hard drives with my Dash while it was over $100. And look here, Litecoin is still taking those crazy pills. Either that or yesterday's dose hasn't worn off yet. Litecoin is displaying the sign of the beast today at $6.66 a coin, having gained 23.4%. So I looked at this today and I started hearing the Jaws theme tune as Litecoin was creeping up on Dash, you know, dun 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 dun. And if Litecoin wasn't crazy enough, today it seems that it has also infected Ethereum Classic here, giving it a double-digit gain of 18.1%, $2.75 a coin for Ethereum Classic, giving it a total market cap of about $248 million. Now that insanity further spreads to Golem here in 11th place, up 27.4%. Right below it is Zcash up 11%. Then further down we've got PivX up 31.4%, Steam up 17.4%, and Doge up 21%. Like I've been saying the last few days, this is highly irregular in my eyes. Overwhelmingly green in the top 20 though, with the biggest loser being Economy there in 15th place, down 9.4% and 56 cents a coin, just under $50 million of market cap. So in terms of the news then, I've turned to bitcoin.com for this article by Jamie Redman. Decentralized exchange BitSquare aims to fulfill the dreams of the cypherpunks. And that's who I referred to in the opening as the cryptocurrency founding fathers. So to begin, why do decentralized exchange matter? Well, they matter because without them, we end up with Bitcoin banks, basically, that leave us with exactly the same problems that we're trying to move away from. So a Bitcoin bank will be defined as any company that has custody of your funds. And that means if you send Bitcoin to a wallet that you do not control the keys to, you have technically just transferred ownership of those funds to the person that does. Now, if you must use one of these Bitcoin banks, use them only for a few minutes. So when I use Coinbase, for example, I log in, I buy some Bitcoin, and as soon as the transaction is complete, I transfer that Bitcoin out of Coinbase and into my own wallet. That way, Bitcoin only have control of my Bitcoin for a few minutes at most. But even this should be an interim step to a truly decentralized model where a middleman never holds your funds. That is, unless that middleman happens to be an autonomous smart contract. Now, the best decentralized exchange we've got so far is localbitcoins.com. However, while local bitcoins never take control of your funds, the website itself is centralized, and therefore it is a single point of attack. So again, this is a great interim step, but not one we would really want to live with long term. And perhaps we'll keep it as an option. It's just that the decentralized exchange options are too weak right now and they need strengthening. So with BitSquare, you publish the fact that you wish to buy or sell, and then when someone wants to do the deal with you, they do so anonymously through the BitSquare system and everyone's happy. BitSquare is a fully working software app that you can download and use right now. So if you're interested and if you've never checked out BitSquare before, go and check it out. So this info, this actual exchange, this question and answer session that we're going to look at here, it comes from Manfred Kara, who is the founder of BitSquare. And he starts off here by saying, "We are very busy with a huge release, including our new DAO model and the rebranding to BISC." So the DAO model, DAO is Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and they're rebranding from BitSquare to BISC with a Q. It says, besides that, we got support for internationalization and 13 translators are working on translating the app into 15 languages. Now, this is the first time I've ever heard them announce their new name and what it's going to be. So they ran into some problems with the name BitSquare because it was just too similar to some established companies with similar names. So they're going to go from called BitSquare to BISC, which kind of sounds like biscuit, doesn't it? And I think it's a smart move because it sounds similar enough to BitSquare to carry the brand equity over, but at the same time it doesn't break the continuity, not as much as if they'd completely changed the name to something very different. I've also never understood why BitSquare's logo looks almost identical to Scenarios. If you can solve that mystery, please let me know in the comments below. And the thing about the 15 languages is it's also a big benefit because the reason why so few people are using BitSquare, relatively, is the lack of trading volume. And because it's a marketplace, it kind of starts off with no buyers and no sellers. So why would any buyers or sellers use it? It's kind of hard to get off the ground, right? But having lots of languages should help broaden the user base, but there's still a challenge of all the differing national currencies diluting that demand, so that still remains a difficult problem to solve. So moving on with the other developments that they are working on here, Manfred says that one of the things they're working on is an API, a feature which was heavily requested and should help them get into more markets. Well, I can see an immediate use for the API. You could hook up the API to a bunch of existing centralized exchanges and then feed that into BitSquare, effectively connecting all of the order books of all the major exchanges. Say if someone on Poloniex wants to buy some Monero, but no one on Poloniex wants to sell any. And then elsewhere on, say, Kraken exchange, someone wants to sell some Monero, but no one wants to buy any, right? If I connect BitSquare via the API to Kraken and Poloniex, I could create a bridge and connect those two orders together to do the deal, even though they were on completely different exchanges. Now, as brilliant as that is, I'm going to say it again, I still see the biggest problem being converting the national currencies into digital currencies. That just seems to be the systemic stumbling block for me. Anyway, let's move on, see what else has got to say for himself here. In the other bit, it says, the DAO model will help us to scale up with a decentralized funding model to pay developers and contributors who implement all of those improvements. Now, this was something that was concerning me, actually. As far as I can tell, up until now, BitSquare have been relying on donations, right? So by setting up as a DAO, it will allow them to charge small trading fees on every transaction. And then rather than that money going into a company, it will go into a DAO, which will then provide a pot of money to be reinvested in the platform's development. So brilliant. So moving on from there then, Bitcoin.com asks the question, besides Bitcoin, what are the most traded altcoins on BitSquare currently? And Manfred says Monero is the top currency on the altcoin side. Personally, I don't find that too surprising. Monero is one of the most private-centric currencies out there, and BitSquare is probably the most private exchange out there, since it automatically runs on the Tor network. So kind of match made in heaven, really. Pressing on again down to the bit in blue here, Manfred says, we had about 10,000 downloads of the app for the last version that was online for about 40 days, and then the current release got about 2,000 downloads in about a week. He says, I think these numbers reflect our actual user base quite well. 2,000 users who frequently use it, and 10,000 users who use it occasionally. Now, given that BitSquare isn't really designed for speculators, you would expect most people to use it kind of like I use it really. I open it up, I do a deal, and then I close it. And then for the average user, there's no real need to keep the app running all the time. However, like I said a few minutes ago, with the linking of the exchanges together via the API that they're going to build, the opportunity to profit may well increase and thus attract more speculators to what they call market makers. And then finally down here in the purple, it talks about regulation or BitSquare being the antidote to it. It says, for becoming relevant on a larger scale, the conversion to traditional fiat currencies is crucial. Regulatory hurdles will become too high, so only banks will be able to fulfill that. Now this is a very interesting point to me. Heavy regulation will create this enormous gap between high cost and almost no cost. So high regulation means only big banks with hundreds of staff members will have the resources to process all those administrative steps that are imposed by the regulators. And this will ultimately make it more expensive for the customers because the bank has to pay for all those admin staff and all the administrative processes. They have to pay for that somehow and still make a profit. At the same time, it will make it impossible for any startup to compete because of those massive admin costs. Hence, it brings into sharp focus the only viable alternative, which is to set up an exchange that doesn't have to comply with regulation, well, because it can't bear any of the consequences that are imposed on it. And that, my friends, is the role that BitSquare will play. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. From just a few dollars a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. That is all for today, guys. I'll be back on Monday with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.